My name is Sarah Thompson, and I'm a 28-year-old elementary school teacher from a quiet Midwestern town. Little did I know, my life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn, unraveling secrets that would shake everything I thought I knew about my family. It was a crisp autumn evening when I received the phone call that changed everything. My father, David Thompson, had been rushed to the hospital. As I sped through the dimly lit streets, my heart pounded with worry. Dad had always been my anchor, especially since losing Mom when I was just 15. "Please, Dad, you have to be okay," I whispered, gripping the steering wheel. When I arrived at the hospital, I found my stepmother Linda, who had been in my life for the past 3 years, pacing in the waiting room. Her usually impeccable hair was in disarray, and mascara streaks ran down her cheeks. "Sarah, thank God you're here," Linda said, her voice shaky. "The doctors won't tell me anything." Just then, a doctor approached us, his expression serious. "Are you David Thompson's family?" "Yes, I'm his daughter." "How is he?" I asked, my heart in my throat. The doctor's face softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but your father is in critical condition. We're doing everything we can, but you should prepare yourselves." The next few days blurred into one, machines beeping, hushed voices, and endless prayers. I rarely left Dad's side, holding his hand and reminiscing about happier times. Linda came and went, always on her phone, which I tried to dismiss as her way of coping. On the fourth day, as I dozed in an uncomfortable chair, I felt a faint squeeze on my hand. Startled, I opened my eyes to see Dad staring at me, his gaze sharp despite his frailty. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "the safe in my office. The combination is your birthday. You need to." Suddenly, the machines erupted into a frenzy of alarms. Dad's eyes rolled back as his body convulsed. I screamed for help, watching in helpless terror as doctors rushed in. They worked frantically, pressing defibrillator paddles to his chest. "Clear," the doctor shouted, but Dad's body fell still. "Time of death, 10:47 p.m., the doctor announced softly. My world shattered. I collapsed to the floor, my sobs echoing through the sterile room. Linda held me, but her embrace felt cold, distant. Through my grief, Dad's final words haunted me. What was in the safe? Why had he been so desperate for me to find it? The funeral was a solemn affair. As I stood by the graveside, I noticed my Uncle Robert lingering at the back of the crowd. Our eyes met, and a chill ran down my spine. There had always been tension between him and Dad, but the look he gave me was different, darker, almost triumphant. That night, unable to sleep, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would open the safe. Whatever secret Dad had left for me, I had to know. The morning after the funeral, I stood in front of Dad's office door, my hand trembling as it hovered over the doorknob. The house was eerily quiet. Linda had left for a business meeting, something that struck me as odd considering the circumstances. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. Dad's presence lingered in every corner, the faint scent of his cologne, the familiar disarray of papers on his desk. My eyes locked onto the safe, hidden behind a landscape painting. With shaking fingers, I entered the combination, my birthday, just as Dad had said. The safe door swung open with a soft click. Inside was a stack of documents and a sealed envelope with my name scrawled across it. My heart raced as I opened the letter, unfolding the familiar handwriting. "Sarah, my darling daughter, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I only hope I had the chance to tell you in person. But if not, you must know the truth. Your life is in danger. Linda and Robert are not who they claim to be." Suddenly, a noise from downstairs startled me. Footsteps, closer, too close. Panic surged through me as I shoved the letter and documents into my bag. I barely had time to close the safe and replace the painting when the door to the office burst open. Uncle Robert stood there, his expression a mask of false concern. "Sarah, dear, I've been looking all over for you. The lawyer's here for the will reading." I forced a smile, my heart racing. My mind was spinning. "Of course, I'll be right down." In the living room, a stern-faced lawyer I'd never seen before sat beside Linda, who was dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Robert guided me to a seat, his hand on my shoulder heavy with something that felt more like a threat than comfort. The will reading was a blur of legal jargon. But one thing became painfully clear. Everything, every last penny, every piece of property had been left to Linda. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "There must be some mistake," I protested, glancing between the lawyer and Linda. Dad would never. Before I could finish, Robert cut in, his voice sugary sweet. Now, Sarah, your father clearly wanted to ensure Linda was taken care of. I'm sure you want that too, don't you? Linda reached out and patted my hand, her touch icy, like she was trying to calm a wild animal rather than comfort me. I'll make sure you're provided for. Don't worry, she said, a small smug smile tugging at her lips. I yanked my hand away, bile rising in my throat. This is wrong. All of it. I barely held back tears as I fled to Emily's house. As soon as I spilled the entire story to her, showing her dad's letter, her eyes widened in disbelief. Sarah, this is insane. You have to go to the police. I shook my head. With what proof? A half-burnt letter. I need more. That night, my mind raced, replaying everything. Hushed phone calls, secretive glances between Linda and Robert, Dad's increasing paranoia. Something wasn't right, and I had to get to the bottom of it. The next morning, I drove to Dad's office building, determined to find answers. As I approached, I saw Michael, Dad's old friend and longtime lawyer, exiting the building. His face was drawn, confused. Sarah, he called out, hurrying over. I'm so sorry about your father. Michael, did you know about the will? I interrupted, my heart pounding. He frowned. Will? David asked me to draw up a new 1 month ago, leaving everything to you. But we never finalized it. He kept talking about protecting you from something, but wouldn't say what. My blood ran cold. That's not the will that was read yesterday, I whispered, a sick feeling in my stomach. Michael's face paled. Sarah, what exactly is going on here? Before I could answer, a black SUV screeched to a halt beside us. The tinted window rolled down, revealing Robert's cold, taunting smile. Sarah, Linda's been looking everywhere for you, he said smoothly. Why don't you come with me? We have so much to discuss. I glanced at Michael, fear reflected in his wide eyes. I can't trust anyone anymore. My heart pounded as I stared at Robert's menacing smile through the SUV window. In a split-second decision, I grabbed Michael's arm and bolted toward his car. Drive, I yelled as we scrambled inside. Without hesitation, Michael peeled out of the parking lot, the SUV roaring to life behind us. What the hell is going on, Sarah? Michael demanded, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I quickly filled him in on the fake will and Dad's cryptic warning. Michael's face went ghostly pale. This is bigger than we thought, he muttered. We need help. We picked up Emily and regrouped at Michael's office, piecing together the puzzle. A chilling picture emerged. Robert, drowning in gambling debts, had teamed up with Linda to steal Dad's fortune. But how deep did the deception go? We need proof, Emily said, her investigative instincts kicking in. Security footage, handwriting samples, anything that can show the will was forged. Michael nodded grimly. I'll pull David's banking records. If there's been any unusual activity, we'll find it. As they worked, I remembered Jessica, Dad's longtime assistant. If anyone knew Dad's recent movements, it would be her. I quickly called her and arranged to meet at a quiet cafe. When she arrived, her eyes were red-rimmed with worry. She slid into the booth across from me, squeezing my hand. I've been so worried about you, Sarah, she said, voice trembling. Your father, he knew something was wrong. He made me promise to give you this if anything happened to him. She pressed a small flash drive into my palm. Hope surged through me as I closed my fingers around it. Back at Michael's office, we huddled around the computer as I plugged in the drive. A video of Dad appeared on the screen, his voice thick with emotion. Sarah, if you're watching this, I'm gone. Linda isn't who she claims to be. I discovered she's been married multiple times, always to wealthy men who died under suspicious circumstances. She's working with Robert. But I don't know how deep the conspiracy goes. Be careful who you trust. Dad's voice warned from the video, a tremor in his tone. I've hidden evidence in the old cabin. I love you, sweetheart. Stay safe. The video ended, leaving us frozen in stunned silence. We need to get to that cabin, Emily said, already grabbing her coat and heading for the door. As we drove to the secluded family vacation spot, Michael's phone rang. It was the private investigator he'd hired. You're not going to believe this, Michael said, his voice tense after hanging up. Linda's real name is Eleanor Blackwood. She's wanted in 3 states for identity fraud and embezzlement. At the cabin, we found a hidden safe behind a loose board in the wall. Inside were documents detailing Robert and Linda's entire scheme, how they planned to seize Dad's fortune, and how far they'd gone to cover their tracks. Armed with this damning evidence, we decided it was time to confront Robert. We found him at Dad's house, frantically packing a suitcase, his face drained of color when he saw us. "It's over, Robert," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We know everything." His shoulders slumped and his voice cracked. "I never wanted to hurt David. The debts. Linda said she could fix everything." I didn't know she was planning to. He couldn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Dad's death might not have been natural after all. Suddenly, the screech of tires outside shattered the silence. We rushed to the window just as Linda's SUV sped away, sirens wailing in the distance. My heart sank. I realized then, this wasn't over. Linda was still out there, and she had nothing left to lose. The truth behind Dad's death was still shrouded in mystery, but I was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. With Robert's confession and the mountain of evidence we had gathered, justice for Dad was within reach. But as I watched the flashing lights of the police cars paint the darkening sky, a cold knot of fear tightened in my chest. The most dangerous part of this ordeal was still ahead. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and police interviews. I stood firm, presenting all the evidence we had uncovered to the authorities. The forged will was quickly invalidated, and Robert faced the consequences of his actions. Watching Robert being led away in handcuffs, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. He betrayed our family, but in the end, his confession had been crucial in unraveling the entire conspiracy. The search for Linda intensified. Her face was plastered across news channels and billboards, but she seemed to have vanished into thin air. I knew it was only a matter of time before justice caught up with her. 3 months after Dad's death, the call I'd been waiting for came. Linda had been arrested trying to cross the Canadian border, her trunk packed with cash and fake passports. The officer on the phone assured me that, with the evidence we had, Linda would be facing a long sentence behind bars. With the legal battles finally over, I inherited Dad's business and our family home. Standing in his office, surrounded by his things, I made a decision. I would use part of my inheritance to start a scholarship fund in Dad's name, helping underprivileged kids in our community pursue their dreams. As the months passed, I found a new rhythm in my life. I threw myself into teaching, my students' bright faces reminding me daily of the good in the world. In the evenings, I pored over the books of Dad's business, determined to keep his legacy alive. 1 year to the day after Dad's passing, I stood at his grave, a bouquet of his favorite flowers in my hands. The pain of loss was still there, but it had softened, now mixed with gratitude for the time we'd had and the lessons he taught me. The story of Sarah Thompson's fight for justice has come to an end. But now we turn to you, our viewers. If you were in Sarah's position, would you have forgiven Robert for his role in the conspiracy, given his eventual cooperation? Or do you believe his actions were unforgivable, no matter his remorse? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could shed light on the complex nature of betrayal and redemption. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale of family secrets and perseverance, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more captivating stories. Your support helps us continue bringing you engaging content like Sarah's journey.